Good afternoon, boys and girls. In our previous class, we learned about what are sedatives, what are hypnotics, and then anxiolytics. And we have learned about the quantitative effects of anxiolytics, what do they cause, and then we have learned about types of anxiety, and then sleep pattern, what are the two phases of sleep, NREM, non-rapid eye movement, and REM, rapid eye movement. And then we have learned about classification of sedative hypnotics and anxiolytics, like benzodiazepines, so on and so forth. And today we'll be discussing about some other major drugs which are used for treating anxiety or which are used as sedative hypnotics and used for treating anxiety. So one such drug is barbiturates. So all these barbiturates are derivatives of barbituric acid. They are non-selective CNS depressants, and now it is mainly used in anesthesia and treatment of epilepsy. So their use as a sedative hypnotic agent is no longer recommended. We'll see why they are not recommended. Yes, next slide, we'll see why these drug barbiturates are not used anymore as a sedative hypnotic. The reason being why these drugs are not used sedative hypnotics are they do have narrow therapeutic index or have a narrow therapeutic to toxic dose range. They suppress REM sleep, and then they develop tolerance relatively very quickly, and they have a high potential for physical dependence, and they are drugs of high abuse, and they are potent inducers of hepatic drug metabolizing enzymes. So these are a couple of reasons why we don't use these drugs anymore as hypnotics, and the reasons being they have a narrow therapeutic to toxic dosage range, they suppress REM sleep, and they have developed or patients develop tolerance relatively very quickly, and they have a high potential for physical dependence, and they are the drugs of abuse, and they are potent inducers of hepatic drug metabolizing enzymes. Well, let's see the mechanism of action. These drugs have the same mechanism just like benzodiazepines, but then they increase the duration of channel kept open. Over there in benzodiazepines, we have seen what happens over there with these drugs. So what benzodiazepines, they increase the frequency of opening of chloride channels. On the other hand, barbiturates, they increase the duration of chloride channel kept open. One drug, they increase the frequency of opening of chloride channels. The other drug, they increase the duration of chloride channel kept open. So that is the difference between mechanism of action of benzodiazepines as well as barbiturates. So they have the same, they bind to the same, they have the same action, but then one has got one opens, one increases the frequency of opening of chloride channels, the other one barbiturates, they increase the duration of chloride channel kept open, and they increase the duration of GABA gated channel openings. At high concentration, they may mimic GABA or they may have GABA mimetic action. So let's see the pharmacokinetics. These drugs are highly lipid soluble agents and allows rapid transport across the blood-brain barrier and results in a shorter onset of action. So since these drugs being highly lipid soluble, they can cross the blood-brain barrier, and the net result is they have got very short duration of action or very short onset of action. And then removal from the brain occurs via redistribution to other tissues, results in short duration of action. So just like thiopental sodium, even barbiturates, they are removed from the brain via redistribution, and the reason, and this results in short duration of action of barbiturates. Barbiturates and their metabolites are excreted via the renal route. So these drugs are mainly excreted through renal route, and alkylation of the urine expedites the excretion of barbiturates. That means, if at all the urine is alkalized, the excretion of the barbiturates is enhanced. And treatment of acute overdosage, so sodium bicarbonate is used to treat the acute overdosage. So as such, these drugs, unlike benzodiazepines, they do not have any antagonists. So these are treated just like how we treat a poisonous case. So we'll be learning about their overdosage in our next slide. And therapeutic uses. So these are mainly used as sedative hypnotic agents. They're used in emergency treatment of convulsions as in status epilepticus, mainly used as an anesthetic or be given before anesthesia, combination with antipyretic analgesic. So they are used in combination with antipyretic as well as analgesic agents, and they're used for treatment of hyperbilirubinemia and kernicterus in the neonates. Adverse effects, after effect. Mainly, we see hangover, which is characterized by dizziness, drowsiness, amnesia, impaired judgment, and the patient may have disorientation. So the patients may develop tolerance upon longer usage, decreased responsiveness to a drug following repeated exposure because of downregulation of receptors and induction of hepatic metabolizing enzymes. So tolerance developed as you get exposed to drug over a longer period of time, and this results in downregulation of receptors and induction of hepatic drug metabolizing enzymes. The patient may develop dependence, including psychological and physiological dependence. The patient also experiences withdrawal symptoms, and they are characterized as excitation. The patient may become excited. Patient complains of insomnia, tremor, anxiety, hallucination, and sometimes even convulsions are seen. So the patient has hangover. It's one of the effects of after effect of this drug. The patient has hangover, which is presented as dizziness, drowsiness, amnesia. There is impaired judgment as well as disorientation is seen. The patient may develop tolerance if he is exposed repeatedly to the drug. This causes downregulation of receptors and induction of hepatic drug metabolizing enzymes. And then the patient may develop dependence also, including psychological as well as physiological dependence. The patient may experience withdrawal symptoms like excitation, insomnia, tremor, anxiety, hallucinations, and sometimes the patient may even develop convulsions also. Prolonged use may cause megaloblastic anemia, and some other skin eruptions and porphyrias have been noted. Toxicity overdosage. The strong physiological dependence may develop upon long-term usage. So whenever you use this drug for a longer period of time, there is every chance of developing physiological dependence. So depression of the medullary respiratory centers is the usual cause of death of sedative hypnotic overdosage. So generally the overdosage, toxic or overdosage of these drugs may cause death because of depression of the medullary respiratory centers. Also loss of brainstem vasomotor control and myocardial depression. Withdrawal symptoms is characterized by increase in anxiety, insomnia, CNS excitability, and then convulsions. Drugs with long half-lives have mildest withdrawals. Drugs with quick onset of action are most abused. No medication against overdosage of barbiturates. As I've told you, benzodiazepines have got an antagonist flumazenil, but as such, these drugs, barbiturates, they do not have any antidote and are supposed to be treated just like any other poisoning case. Contraindicated in patients with porphyria. Contraindications. Patients with family history of porphyria or in case of acute intermittent porphyria, these barbiturates cause induction of ALA synthetase enzyme in mitochondria. This leads to increased incidence of porphyrins and hence porphyrin neurotoxicity. These are contraindicated in liver dysfunctions, kidney disease, and severe pulmonary insufficiency. An example being emphysema. So these drugs are supposed to be given very carefully in these conditions and in patients who have got porphyria as well. Treatment of acute overdosage. So you must have learned about treatment of poisoning. So just like any other poisoning cases, we do treat barbiturate poisoning the same way. And overdosage can result in coma, diminished reflexes, severe respiratory depression, hypotension leading to cardiovascular collapse as well as renal failure. Treatment. So you need to follow the same line of management, just how we treat other poisoning cases, airway breathing and circulation, as well as fluids, all those things, vitals are supposed to be maintained. Supporting respiration and circulation has to be maintained. Alkalizing the urine and promoting diuresis is one of the most important prospect or one which is to be followed. And then hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis are recommended or used for treating the overdosage of barbiturates. And then let's see non-benzodiazepine hypnotics. These are otherwise called as Z compounds. So in exam, they can ask you as Z compounds. So you need not get carried away or bothered. Z compounds are nothing but non-benzodiazepine hypnotics. Zolpidem. So it has got mechanism of action just like similar to that of benzodiazepines. It produces near normal sleep like benzodiazepines, and then they are less likely to produce tolerance as well as dependence, and lacks anticonvulsant, anti-anxiety, and muscle relaxant effects. So mechanism being the same as benzodiazepines, it produces the same near normal sleep like benzodiazepines. But then these drugs do not have the tendency to develop tolerance and dependence. And they do not have anticonvulsant action or anti-anxiety as well as muscle relaxant effects. So these drugs are given orally. They have got a very short duration of action, used for short-term insomnia. Actions are antagonized by flumazenil. So as such, we can say that these drugs have got an antagonist. The actions of these drugs are mainly antagonized by flumazenil, and they have got common side effects, common CNS side effects. Buspirone. It's one of the most selective anxiolytic agent used currently, or most selective anxiolytic currently available in the market. The anxiolytic effect of this drug takes several weeks to develop. So they are mainly used for generalized anxiety disorders. Buspirone does not have sedative effects and does not potentiate CNS depressants. So these drugs, buspirone, do not have any sedative effects, and as such, they do not potentiate any CNS depressant action, or they do not have any CNS depressant activity. Has a relatively high margin of safety, fewer side effects are noted, and does not appear to be associated with drug dependence. No rebound anxiety or signs of withdrawal when discontinued. So this drug has got a highly relative margin of safety and fewer side effects are noted, and they do not have or they do not appear to be associated with drug dependence. No rebound anxiety or signs of withdrawal are noted upon discontinuation of this drug. Mechanism of action acts as a partial agonist at the 5-HT1A receptor presynaptically inhibiting serotonin release. So they mainly act as a partial agonist at the 5-HT1A receptor presynaptically inhibiting serotonin release. Let's see the pharmacokinetics of this drug. Not effective in panic disorders, rapidly absorbed orally, undergoes extensive hepatic metabolism to form several active metabolites, and then these are well tolerated by elderly, but may have slow clearance, and has got a couple of analogs like ipsapirinone, gepirone, and tandaspirinone. Side effects: they cause tachycardia, palpitations, nervousness, gastrointestinal disturbances, as well as paresthesias may occur. Cause a dose-dependent pupillary constriction. Chloral hydrate, relatively safe hypnotics, inducing sleep in a half an hour and lasting about 6 hours. Used mainly in children and the elderly and the patients when failed on other drugs. So these are relatively safe hypnotics, but they induce sleep in half an hour and which can last about 6 hours, and used mainly in children as well as in the elderly aged people and the patients who are tried on other drugs or who have failed with other drugs. Is used in institutionalized patients. It displaces warfarin from plasma proteins. These drugs undergo extensive biotransformation. Alpha-2 adrenoreceptor agonist. Example, clonidine. So this drug, clonidine, actually it is used as an antihypertensive agent, but then it has been used for treatment of panic attacks also. Has been useful in suppressing anxiety during the management of withdrawal from nicotine as well as opiate analgesics. So, as you all know, this drug clonidine is an antihypertensive drug, but then it has been used for treatment of panic attacks or panic disorders also. Has been useful in suppressing anxiety during the management of withdrawal from nicotine and then opiate analgesics as well. Withdrawal from clonidine after protracted use may lead to a life-threatening hypertensive crisis. So this drug, if at all withdrawn abruptly or withdrawal of clonidine abruptly may lead to a life-threatening condition or may lead to a life-threatening hypertensive crisis. So these drugs are not supposed to be withdrawn all of a sudden. If at all you withdraw them, they may lead to a life-threatening hypertensive crisis. And then beta adrenoreceptor antagonist. Example, propranolol. So propranolol is an antihypertensive drug, but then more of an antihypertensive, it is used to treat anxiety. So used to treat some forms of anxiety, particularly when physical symptoms are severe. Adverse effects of propranolol may include lethargy, vivid dreams, as well as hallucinations. Trichlorophos has got action similar to that of chloral hydrate. Both get converted to trichloroethanol. It is more palatable, causes less of GIT upsets, and then it is used for short-term management of insomnia and in children for sedation during events of recurrent colic. So dosage to be given is 1 gram just before retiring to bed So these drugs have got same action just like to that of chloral hydrate. Both trichlorophos as well as chloral hydrate get converted to trichloroethanol. More palatable and cause less GIT upset. And these are mainly used in short-term management of insomnia and in children for sedation during events of recurrent colic. And the dosage to be given is 1 gram at bedtime or before retiring to bed. Hydroxyl, it is an antihistaminic basically, but they have antiemetic, sedative, anticholinergic, as well as local anesthetic actions also. And mainly used for treatment of short-term management of anxiety or used for short-term management of anxiety. It is also used as a preanesthetic sedative agent, and they are mainly used in treatment of pruritus. So also used in controlling agitation in adults, and the dosage to be administered is 50 to 100 mg, 1 mg, 50 to 100 mg. And then dose to be administered is 50 to 100 mg thrice daily orally. So its active metabolite is cetirizine. Promethazine, it is also a sedative antihistamine with antiemetic as well as anticholinergic properties. Used for nighttime sedation, 20 mg to be given at bedtime. Its longer duration of action may cause hangover the following day. Melatonin, it is a hormone produced in the pineal gland from the amino acid tryptophan. So this drug melatonin is actually not a drug, but it's an hormone which is produced in the pineal gland from the amino acid tryptophan. It is involved in the protective changes in the skin coloration. So there is diurnal rhythm of melatonin secretion. So there is change in secretion of melatonin. That means melatonin secretion occurs according to time. So it has got a chronological order. So there is diurnal rhythm of melatonin secretion. So it is secreted during hours of darkness and affects sleep pattern. So this drug is secreted during hours of darkness. So whenever there is darker night, and mainly it affects sleep pattern. It acts as a chronobiotic with therapeutically adjusts the timings of circadian rhythm. So it is primarily used to alleviate symptoms of jet lag and other disorders resulting from delay of sleep. So this drug is mainly used in treatment for patients of jet lag or alleviate the symptoms of jet lag and other disorders resulting from delay of sleep. And the dosage to be given is 3 mg 2 hours before bedtime. Its long-term safety remains to be established. So there has not been many studies on the long-term safety of the drugs, and it has to be established. Recently, it has been found to be useful in elderly hypnotic dependent insomniac patients. So how do you manage or management of anxiety? So anxiolytic as such should not be used or should be used only for short-term relief of severe and disabling anxiety. That means they're not supposed to be used for longer periods. Should be used for less than 4 weeks for relief of anxiety. As insomnia is a common complaint in most anti-anxiety drugs induce sleep. Major dose should be given at bedtime. So the major dose which you use for the treatment of anxiety has to be given at bedtime because they induce sleep. Anxiety is often episodic in intensity, and drugs should be given to treat each episode and not to be given continuously for longer periods. So as anxiety being an episodic complaint or it is an episodic in nature, or anxiety is often episodic in intensity, the drugs which are supposed to be given to treat such episode are not to be given continuous for longer periods. So you need to break them, or you need to alter the doses, or you need to, it's not, the drug is not supposed to be given regularly. And beta blocker used for severe somatic symptoms. So indiscriminate use, or using the drug indiscriminately for longer periods is likely to kill all the initiative in the individual and make him permanently dependent on drugs. So these drugs as such are not supposed to be given for longer periods. They may have negative impact on the patients. So these drugs are supposed to be not to be given for longer periods. Patient's cooperation in facing his anxiety is very much needed. So as much the patient has to cooperate in facing his anxiety is needed. So patient need not be given all the time with drugs. The patient has to cooperate. He or she has to, sometimes prefer behavioral therapies, because if you use a drug for a longer period of time, the patient may develop tolerance and dependence. So patient's cooperation in facing such kind of things is to be needed. I mean, in patient's cooperation facing his anxiety is very much useful. So majority of the patient can be helped more by a sympathetic and understanding act to the doctors than by drugs. So instead of treating with drugs, majority of the times the doctor's voice or the doctor's approach to the patient may be of much use, or maybe helpful in treating the patients. So what we feel is, like, instead of giving the drugs to the patient, if we treat the patient, or if a behavioral therapy of the doctor, I mean, understanding the patient and behavioral therapy of the doctor may be more beneficial or useful rather than treating the patient with drugs. And then that concludes the class. So far in our class, we have learned from the beginning in previous class as well as in today. We have seen what is a sedative, hypnotic, as well as anxiolytic or anxiety. We have seen the differences. And then we have seen the classification of anxiolytics. We have seen the quantitative effects of anxiolytic and dose-dependent actions of anxiolytic. And then we have seen the classification, and we have learned about individual drugs like barbiturates, benzodiazepines, Z compounds like zolpidem. And then we have learned about other drugs as well. And we have seen how these drugs act, their therapeutic uses, and then how do we treat overdosage of barbiturates. And last but not least, we have learned about melatonin also. So I hope you have understood the class. But then if you have got any doubts, can call me anytime or message me. Okay, thank you.